Hello, just a few notes on this update 2 to X32ReaperAutoMate. And I'm going to show you how this all starts and the new elements that are present in this version. We'll start with a very fresh console. So this is a 4.0 firmware. And I'm doing a console initialize. So everything is going to be set to very plain standard X32, and we start from there. So let's move up to the console first of all, making sure that we have the right setup for the routing. I want to make sure that, and I'm going to use a 5-channel audio for this test. So I want to make sure that my inputs are at least taking the 1 to 8 card inputs. So I'm selecting this. And I believe this is pretty much it in terms of setup on the X32. I don't need to do anything else special. The rest of the configuration is, as expected. The X Live is used as recorder view. If we go to X Live, basically it also says that, the recording playback is actually using the USB interface rather than the SD card, which is what we want. We want to go through the USB, not the card. So this should be pretty much it. Let's move on to Reaper now. So this is my PC, and X32 Reaper has been set up generally speaking. But in terms of new things, what's important to look at is the contents of the configuration file. There are a few things, at least one, that changed, and which is important. So if you look at this file, basically now this section here that talks about Reaper IP string is actually left blank, which means that when the program starts, it will look at the computer IP address as being the IP used for Reaper, because it's expecting that Reaper is going to run on that computer, which is the case. So that simplifies, somewhat the setup time and the elements that need to be set up. Another thing that changed in this update is back there is a 2000 value here, and that element is called catch-up threshold. The catch-up threshold is basically the time after which the system will catch up all the events from the beginning of your mix. And that will be used for jog, for stop, for pause, for anything that goes back in time, even the loops. We'll see that during the demo. These are the two elements that have changed, and that's quite important. I'm going to start Reaper now. So closing this file and starting Reaper, which happens to be this application here. So we start Reaper. And basically, you'll see that it will connect to the X32, which is at IP62 in my case. We don't need that. And I will start Reaper as well. That will start this 5-piece audio. Okay, so here is my Reaper with only 5 tracks, and these are the tracks that I have here. Okay, now let's look at what we have on the console. I'm going to try to move that slowly so that you can see it. And basically on the console, which is just right there, we have those 5 tracks just right there, showing the same colors as what has been defined in the Reaper names. Okay, so those tracks are going to be starting to play. So Reaper has been started, and the X32 Reaper program is running, and we have now selected automatically when we start the program, we have the bank C, which is selected automatically. We can use those buttons for selecting different operations, which are highlighted or not on this cheat here, cheat sheet actually. And these are jogs that are per beat, per measure, per marker, or for the full song basically. We can start to play the Reaper song. So Reaper is running actually, and we should see some signals coming in. I can actually start my mix here, at least setting some levels. If I want to listen to the song, I can actually do that and use my headphones to work on my mix, or have that on a monitor system. Doesn't matter. I can of course pause, come back to playing, stop, or I can play again, but I can also return to 0, all those things. Now, when it becomes interesting is when, if I stop here, is when, and return to 0, is when you actually decide to save a scene, because let's say that all my setup in terms of EQ and so on is all ready to go. So I'll save that scene, basically using the save scene, and I'll set the automation on. Now the automation will start being important for my mix, and I'll make the recording on as well, the recording of OSC events, and that will record every change that I make on the console. Okay, and this is going to be important because when I'll show you the jogs action, you'll see what happens. So I'll set recording on, and I say to Reaper, please start playing your audio. I'll start the mix on my console, basically. That's what happens here. So the cursor is moving on Reaper, trust me. The signals are going to come back here. Okay, and I can start actually saying, okay, I want this track to be up, this one to be up as well, this one to come up halfway. I can do any type of change I want here. I can decide that I want this to come back, this to come back, mute this guy. Whatever changes are taking place at the console in terms of mixing are recording by the millisecond. Okay, and if I say, okay, I'm done now basically with my mix, I just want to return to 0, still playing, okay, still recording, but I'm not going to make any change. Okay, look at what happens. So we went back to 0. Okay, and interestingly enough, my mix has been recording exactly as I wanted it to be. Okay, and the cursor are moving, very smoothly, exactly as I want them to be. Okay, the mute is going to come at some point, etc., etc. Okay, what's interesting also is that if I go back using the jog, in my case, in terms of a few seconds back, you remember this value of 2000. Basically, if I move back, say, a number of seconds in time, okay, everything has been moved very quickly. If I move back just a little bit, let's say half a second or something like that, I don't know if I can do that. So it went back to 0. If I move back a little bit, the change actually don't affect. See, there is no full feedback here. Catch back. But if I do a lot of movements, everything is playing very quickly up to the point where I'm supposed to be, and it comes back very as expected. So this is what happens in terms of jog. This happens also if I do a stop, if I do a reset, everything is going to come back to 0 and play exactly as it is supposed to be. So this enables to do a very nice scrub and a very smooth automation in terms of everything that ReaperAutoMate can do. I hope this is useful. This is update 2 of the program, and hopefully it will help a lot of people doing perfect mix on the X32 in their studio. Thank you.